The tournament, Master Pyro tapping in on Levels of Mastery here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I go live to stream on IMC TV. I'm very grateful for having this platform and being able to share my process, share things that I have going on, and sharing it in a way that, you know, it's more than just storytelling. It's something that we can learn from, that we can see what it takes to, you know, get to the next level of our evolution. And being here on Levels of Mastery, whether you're watching this right now live or you're watching the pre-recording of this, the purpose of this is for you to realize that there is another level to your evolution or your mastery, if you will, right? You mastering your life, and that breaks down in different components, right? Mastering your finances, mastering your relationships, mastering your craft, mastering your business, mastering your relationships to other people, right? There's different things or skills, right? Mastery, another word for skills. There's different skills that we need to acquire to be able to live a fruitful life or a life worth living, if you will, right? So that's what we're here today to, you know, break down and talk about. And I've already done over 20 episodes or 20 levels, and today's gonna be another one, all right? So today I'm gonna be talking about, you know, hence the song about bouncing back, right? What does it mean to bounce back? And we're gonna break this down in different elements, different components, because, you know, sometimes people have the wrong understanding of what it means to bounce back and what it means to, you know, go through a phase. That's one of the biggest things. Even myself, at the level that I'm at, you know, I had to always be willing to surrender myself to whatever phase life is giving me, right? There are things that are going to unfold that is not, you know, is none of my control. However, what is in my control is whether I'm going to pursue or I'm going to fall back, right? And that's something that is like this distinguishing line between whether you wanted something really bad or you don't want it that bad, right? Because life is going to continuously evolve and stack things to test how bad you want it, because you might want it at one level, but when you get to another level, you might see, okay, it's not really worth it. And you have to have that distinguished factor in your mind so you can handle it with that decision properly when it comes about, right? You know, and somebody like myself that's dedicated, this is where the difference between being dedicated, being committed, is going to make a huge difference on the decision that you're making and the consistency of those decisions that you're making, right? Because if you're truly committed to something and you are dedicated to something, it means no matter what it takes, I'm going to do whatever it takes to achieve this thing or something that I would love to have or love to experience, or, yeah, just those things. Because we start seeing like, man, what else am I doing? Like, if I'm not doing these things that makes me feel alive, that I love, helps me become full in what I'm doing, then what am I really doing? And you're always doing something, whether it's in that light or another light, okay? So the art of bouncing back, and what does it mean to bounce back? Okay, so as we know in life, life is never always going to serve you up exactly what you want, how you want it, per se, right? Yes, of course, that's where miracles come into play, where we have things go exactly how things needed to be unfolded, right? In the sense of how you wanted it to unfold, right? Then there's things that just don't happen that way, right? And that's where things start to change up. So a lot of times in that phase, right, in that moment, in that phase, because only a moment is only a phase, that you're taking a loss and not only taking a loss, but you have to now accept the loss. So once again, let me make this clear. If you're watching this, you're an adult, you're a sane human being, and you're responsible for your own actions and conditions, of course. And I'm just speaking, I'm just speaking what is right for me to do what I got to do as I'm moving forward in this life, right? So it comes a phase of you having to accept the loss. Like, okay, the loss has happened, right? Whether something didn't go as planned, this thing didn't fall through. There's something that just went, right? Something did, right? And that will be we're gonna phrase that as the loss, right? And then there's the loss, and then there's accepting the loss. Like, damn, I gotta accept this. And I firmly believe for you to really bounce back, and you have to accept the loss for what it is, not accept losing, not accept, losing things, but accepting the fact that this thing didn't work out, and I have to accept it for what it is, right? Maybe, let me give some examples to get more clarity. Maybe, you're going out on the first date and the girl doesn't show up. You got to accept that loss, accept it for what it is, not accept losing in communication with women, but just accept the fact that they didn't go through. You had a business situation that I was supposed to go through, didn't go through. I got to accept that loss because I was planning on that for the next step or whatever it may be, right? So you have to accept it so you can accept it as it is. Because what happens is, if you don't accept things as it is, when you're moving forward, you begin to have this weird judgment of things because you didn't accept things as it are. We can see that in a lot of people where they're always hypocritical. They always have some, they always got some excuse or reason or why this, that, and the third, without the results of their own life of it being there to justify why they have that judgment, if you will. And a lot of that comes from not accepting things as they are when it comes to a loss, okay? And you have to allow that to phase through. Now, how do I know, how would you know, and I'm going to speak on my own experience, how do I know what I'm going through a lot? Well, I begin to feel it. It begins to become a feeling that I have to phase through, right? And the thing about it is that we don't know how long it's going to take for us to phase through it. Now, what I start to see for myself, this is why, listening to my other lectures, my other levels that I spoke on will help make sense what I'm saying. Excuse me. And in those moments, I have to surrender, or I have to apply what we call a morphology, where this must be the way. Because I'm doing what I'm doing in the name of God and helping others, and I'm going this specific path, this straight and narrow path. And then a whole lot of turbulence begins to happen. A whole lot of negative things and vibes begin to happen, right? And if I continue my path with this thing of what things, how things has unfolded with me prior to what I'm doing, I'm gonna begin to misjudge things a lot. And that begins to deteriorate and to tarnish what I'm creating. So as I'm going through it, I have to allow it to phase through my body. Maybe I'm getting certain physical effects where I don't want to eat, I'm not sleeping the right way, right? Or, the lack of motivation to want to wake up on time, or the lack of motivation to even work out, take care of your body a certain way. All these things begin into play. Now, I need to make that clear in the sense of this will make somebody very skilled and very masterful when they're going through these things, and they still do it anyways. They still wake up on time, they still wake up, you still go stream on live, you still communicate, you still talk business, you still open up sets, you still expand yourself, even with this going on. Because see, what happens is, if you allow yourself to dim in the midst of you going through these phases, then you begin to build like a muscle memory, if you will. You begin to build a momentum in that direction, instead of using that to propel yourself, right? Use it to propel yourself. So for example, I remember I remember when I was quitting my job, right? I had to quit my job a way back. And I remember that internal feeling like, oh man, like I gotta do it. I have to quit my job because there's no way I'm gonna be able to do what I really want to do if I'm continuously hanging on to that. And as negative as it felt, as like uncertain as it felt, I had to grow in those moments and be more expansive instead of settling. And that's what happens. We begin to settle because of the uncomfort feeling. It's one thing to change things when you're in a comfortable place, and it's another thing to change things when you're in an uncomfortable place. And you got to know the difference between what needs to be changed when you're in an uncomfortable situation and what things you don't need to change when you're in a comfortable situation. Like people like to change the levels of their discipline when they're in an uncomfortable position. I'm the one to tell you, you shouldn't do that. You should be more disciplined as much as possible. Now, situations in your life or the phase you're going through may mark you down a couple percentages. Like normally you're at 100, and then right now you're probably feeling like a 50 or a 40 because of circumstances and phases in your life. But then you don't want to give 100% of that 40%. You want to give, you know, half of that or a certain percentage of that, and that's not going to get you what you want to get to. You see what I'm saying? Because now you're being registered as somebody that's giving way less instead of giving it your all. Even if your all is only 40%, even if your all is only 30%, maybe your all is only 10%. It doesn't matter about that. What matters is you being registered as somebody that's giving it its all, even if you only have the reserve left. Now, once again, this is why having proper teachings and proper understanding of the minds, that you just don't think I'm telling you just to just throw it all away or just give it all away. No, you gotta have a certain balance to that, right? You gotta have a process to understand what is it that you need to, you know, take out in your life for those things. So when you're going through that phase of taking a loss and accepting the loss, now you're going through a phase, right? You're gonna go through a phase until that loss gets fulfilled or it gets fixed or you get over it. Now, in that phase, this is where it's essential for you to figure out, okay, what's the next step I gotta do? This is where dropping the emotions, surrendering to the moment, right? Surrendering to the moment and accepting things as they are, you begin to let go of it, not become emotionally charged in a negative way, and you can channel that energy that you're feeling into the next step. This is where the road splits. And a lot of times people are easily prone to go the way of destroying what's there instead of building more with that energy. And that's a skill. That's not something that's just there. Now, some people are gifted with that. Some people are born with that or has learned that. But as an overall basis, it's something that people don't do. People don't run towards more discipline. They run towards more comfortability and more and less accountability. When you're running from accountability, that it falls on you, you begin to, you know, lessen yourself, because then you don't want to accept anymore. You don't want to accept more responsibility because you know somewhere deep inside of you, you don't even accept the responsibility that you give yourself. You don't even hang on to the things you do yourself. You don't even follow through with your own word when you say you're going to do it. Now, of course, there's going to be situations in life matters where, you know, you may have said your word and time either ran out or miscommunication. I'm not talking about those moments. I'm talking about moments where you're consciously aware of you saying you're going to do something and I'm going to create this, I'm going to do that, and then you're consciously not doing it, right? That doesn't help anybody grow, and they're sure going to help anybody grow that does that. So to bounce back on the loss, you have to accept that thing, and then on top of that, you got to take what's the next step in what it takes to fix it. A lot of time that comes from, you know, depending on the situation, right? If you're not at fault, you need to be moving in more confidence, and it's the time not to be humble. But if you're at fault, it's time for you to be confident in being humble so you can fix what needs to be fixed. Because being humble is really only there when you need, when you're learning something or you're in the wrong of something. This is where the skill of humbleism comes into play. And you need that to be strong so you could be confident on the other side, which, or you could be more stronger on the other side, which is being more confident. Now, not to say if you're humble, you're not confident. What I'm saying is that you build more confidence by knowing when to play the humble part. But being humble doesn't mean allow people to walk all over you and just be okay with that. That's for sure. So this is an art. And the last piece I'm going to say about this is that, you know, as you go through those steps and those phases, and you make your decision, you start to say, okay, I was in the right of this, so I need to be more confident what I'm doing and rise up, or I wasn't in the right of this, so I need to be humble and learn and figure out how I can mend what's going on in the midst of the storm, if you will. And then, what was the last one I was going to say? And being solution oriented. This is something that people hear me say a lot because this is a driving force of my character. It's being solution oriented, meaning you orient your mind to solutions. You calibrate your mind to solutions. You figure out what it takes to get to the next step to fix the problem and become a solution. You gear your mind in that focus that when you hear a problem, you automatically searching out for the solution. And not in the sense of just having something to say and have something to talk about and just have a whole bunch of shallow conversations, but to have a solution where it's a legit fixed solution of hearing a problem. This is where businesses come into play. This is where services come into play. This is where income comes into play because you're able to solve problems, right? I'm good at what I do because I can solve somebody's problem on how to create quality imaging, digital imaging in different areas. I know how to tell a story visually. I know how to take photos that are aesthetic. These things are things that people need help on to help their business. So all these things play a huge part, a huge, huge part. And these are things that we need to gear our minds to so we can know how to bounce back correctly, right? A lot of times people bounce back from problems, but they didn't learn anything from the problem. What's the point of you going through these things? You're not learning from it. And how you know you're not learning for it? Okay, well, where are your results from prior of you going through this phase or this mistake or this issue? And now with the new solution, how are you elevating and growing? Your skills should be going up still. Your graph should still be going up. Of course, as you see a graph, there's dips and there's spikes. There's dips and there's spikes, and then there's level outs. But overall, if you look at it from far away, you should still see your graph going up, because if you're staying consistent and grinding and elevating and staying confident behind what you want to do, it's no brainer it's going to go up. You have to be able to recognize when you're not achieving certain things to take you to where you want to get to, achieving certain results. And the big thing about that is having a sense of urgency behind doing what you need to do to elevate to that level. This is huge. This is huge in the mindset game. As a mindset coach, this is something that I have to share with people, because these are the distinguishing factors of somebody truly sparking this drive towards this goal of your passion, which you see yourself making as far as money, as far as relationships, as far as business, right? If you can honestly take a moment and think about how would it be like if I was actually making the money that I would want to make, and I was actually around the network of friends that I actually want to have. How would I be acting? How would I be responding to life? How would I treat life? You start seeing there's a huge gap between those two, because a lot of times we're caught up on the mishaps or the little things in life instead of looking at what we're actually living for, which are those things. We're living for that. We want that. So staying as true as that as possible is what's the core element of what is going to take you to bounce back and your little mishaps and hiccups and losses and L's, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Like, let's just take a moment and realize that even though everything is going okay today, there's going to be a moment where things are not going to be okay. Money is going to be a situation, something is going to be a situation that's going to knock you off of your high horse, if you will, or your cloud 10, or your dreams. There's going to become a moment where it's going to slap you out of it, and you're going to be like, what the fuck is happening? And in those moments, you need to ground yourself so you don't lose yourself in the other headspace, so you can create properly. And to bounce back is to bounce back with a plan, and a plan through improvising with the first step that's available. What's the next step available? It's major. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. I appreciate everybody for tapping in with me today here on Levels of Mastery. It was an honor to speak to everybody that's listening, even if you're watching right now live, or if you're watching it live or you're watching this later. You know, this is something that is very dear to my heart, because it's time that I take, whether I want to do it or not. I still commit myself to come here and speak on this, because this makes a difference between being part of a problem and showing an example of what you speak on. And this is part of it. You know what I'm saying? This is part of it. These are the things that not a lot of people see that builds the character. And I take pride in doing things that help my character grow, that people don't want to pay attention to, because when they have the misconcept of like who you think you are, then you know that they haven't really paid attention. They're just going off of their own whatever mishaps they may have, and that's fine. But it's not your responsibility to play along. All right. This is Master Pyro tapping in on Levels of Mastery, talking about bouncing back and what it takes to bounce back, man. That is an art, that is a skill, and it is something that is very valuable in this day and age, because being solution oriented needs to come fast, because as you can see, technology is moving very fast, right? So this is Master Pyro once again on IMC Nation TV, sharing Levels of Mastery. Of course, follow my Instagram, Levels of Mastery, and of course my personal Instagram called Master Pyro, and any other outlets I have on there. Link is in the bio. You can check it out. I appreciate everybody for tapping in, and be ready for the next phase of Master Pyro. You know, this is a very beautiful time to document what I got going on, because of the man, just the way things are flowing for me is very truly a blessing. All right. Be the best, fuck the rest, stay dangerous.